As I write this letter, I really don't know what to write. I mean, I'm not sure if I'll wake up tomorrow, so I can't decide if this should be some kind of my will. My last farewell to everyone I know, whether they will believe what happened to me or not. On his second thought, if I stick around, and someone finds this letter, let's just say, they won't think of me the way they did before. Nothing is certain for me right now, and I am writing all of this just to get rid of my burden, something that has scared me since I was little. It started when I was 8 years old, or maybe 9 years old. I don't know for sure. At that time there was a boy I used to play with. He lived right across the street from my house. One Sunday morning I wanted to see him, but he never came. I went to his house and pressed the doorbell. Nobody opened it. The apartment is empty. I don't know what happened to him and his family. My parents said his father got a new job and they moved from here. I never believed that, and never will. The worst thing is that even today, in the era of social networking, I can find no trace of that friend of mine. He disappeared, as if vanishing in thin air. Immediately after that, a strange thing happened. I walked into my grandmother's room, and she said something I will never forget. Black Hand took them, he said in a half whisper, as if he didn't want anyone to hear, but I heard these words. What's that? I asked curiously. It's like a fly in the night, entering an open window, choking the adults and taking their young, he said, trembling, in a weak voice. Where are those black hands taking them? I asked. He never answered my questions. You know, my grandmother seems to feel bad. The following year he died, and his death reminds me of his words once again. I spent many years of my life watching my windows so that they were always closed. Even on summer nights I closed my windows, even though it was really hot. My fear grew deeper, because even though I had no proof that his words were true, I believed them. I tried to talk to my parents, but whenever I mentioned the Black Hand, they would just say that it didn't exist. Just an old legend. As I grew up, I finally managed to break free from the anxiety I once had. I'd heard the legend of the Black Hand all over the Hutchin area, and for a time I could only laugh at my childhood fears. There are many of these myths, and although no one has found out how they spread, all agree that this was the era in which they spread. The myth says, before and during World War II, many people in Hutchin disappeared without a trace. There was something different about those people, something that a child's eye couldn't see. Everyone knew where and why they had disappeared, but no one dared to talk about it, especially to their children. So the story about the creature Black Hand explains all the strange things going on, as well as warning children to stay away from strangers and to remember to lock the door at night. Granny grew up right then, and she clearly knew the legend. Perhaps, it was some scary trick that made him remember the story at the very moment my friend disappeared. Like I said, I stopped believing in the Black Hand years ago. I still don't know what happened to my friend, and I don't know if I will ever find out. I try not to think about it, and I still think it's just my weird feeling. I moved into the hostel. After entering Hutchin University it was not very pleasant for me. Maybe, just a lack of privacy, because I'm used to staying at home alone. No, my roommates are nice to me, and I'll probably get used to my life now. Everything changed when I heard something tapping on the window. I couldn't sleep, so I watched the sound. Maybe a bird, was the first thing that came to my mind. Or maybe bats, they pass by here a lot. But soon after, the sound became more and more akin to a human hand tapping on a window. From the sound of clapping to the sound of knocking. That's right, it was like someone was knocking on this window with a clenched fist. I get restless. I got up and, trying not to disturb my roommate, slowly walked towards the window. I tried to look out the window, but I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black, and I needed some light. I couldn't turn on the light, afraid I would wake my roommate, so I grabbed my phone. Try to use cell phone light. The tapping sound slowly faded away, and after a few moments when I turned on my phone's light, I heard nothing more. I lay in my bed, confused and scared. My childhood fears surfaced, but I still couldn't let my fears drag me down. After a few minutes, I decided to check the window again, just to make sure. For several minutes I stared into the darkness. I know now that it doesn't exist. No black hands. Finally, I dared to do it. I opened the window. Yesterday morning I woke up late. I overslept, and of course was late for class. However, I have a few other things to worry about. The window was closed, and I assumed it was my roommate who had done it before leaving for college. He never came back, and he still isn't answering my calls. I worry about him, and so do other people. Some say he left college and moved out of town with his girlfriend. I want to believe it. I want to believe it. But tonight, I can't stop thinking about it. I'm not a child, and I don't believe in silly stories. I'm not superstitious, but I'm scared. I'm scared, because I'm alone, and no one can tell me that my fear actually never goes away. By now I've heard a knock on my window, but tonight I'm going to sleep with the window open. I just want to make sure.